Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. I am super stoked to have my good friend Umang here on the show with me. Umang, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Young. Good to see you, man.
I know
Thanks
it's
for having
awesome that
me.
it's so great to have you here after decades of friendship, right? Like I feel like it's going to be a fun one to get to talk to you since we've known each other since we were whippersnappers.
Oh my God, I know. I was thinking about how long we've known each other. I was even thinking about how long it took us just to get this podcast. I think we talked about it 6 months ago. So I'm glad. No, I'm excited to do this. But
Awesome. Well, tell the listeners what you do for a living.
yeah, sure. So it's kind of interesting. I started out when I was like in school and stuff in IT, but for most of my career, I've been a marketer.
Hmm.
And so for 20 some odd years, worked for some large companies, some medium-sized companies, some really small companies. It's been in kind of every facet of marketing. This past year, I'm excited to kind of dig into it with you. I took a bit of a, you know, took some time off and like enjoyed just kind of a different pace of life, if you will.
Yeah.
And I have my own consulting company right now, kind of in the midst of some transitions. So it's just kind of like I think a new chapter's starting to unfold and trying to figure out what all that will be. But I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. When you do these kind of chapter flips, there's like so much that happens as you become a parent. There's like a new chapter in like your book. You know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah.
like it completely shifts it. Did you feel like that had a lot of impact on it, or is it more on the professional side?
Well, no, I actually think 100% what you said,
Mm,
right? Having my daughter, I only have one daughter, only have one child. Having her, I think, started that trajectory for me, where it was
mm,
like, okay, I'm starting to kind of rethink what I want and what brings happiness to me and the things that I value. And I've really kind of had to, and it takes that's a long journey, right? My
yeah,
daughter's 4, she's going to be 5 in a couple of months.
awesome.
Yeah, so it's taken some time, but she certainly planted seeds from the moment she arrived. I'm like,
Yeah,
this all of a sudden is really important in ways that, I think everybody knows like being a parent is important, having a child is important, but in so many other ways that it affects your life that it's now starting to kind of come, boy,
do you have any specific examples you can share?
yeah, I mean, look, I think like the most obvious things. Well, maybe it's not obvious. I'll give some context, right? Because not I assume you know, but everyone else doesn't know, right? I started kind of being serious and settling down in my personal life when I was 40 years old, right?
Yeah,
So I traveled a lot.
yeah.
When we met, I was living in the Bay Area. I lived in Seattle. I lived in Arkansas. I was in Arizona, the Northeast. I moved around for jobs. I was, single or else I had girlfriends, but it was just never prioritized the whole getting married, settling down thing. And so I focused a lot on career, on the professional side of my life for that first chapter. And then, even the way that I became a parent, I was kind of very open to it, but I wasn't attached to it. It wasn't this thing that I have people in my family, in my world that naturally have this instinct to be a
Mm.
parent, and they know it from when they're a kid that they want to have kids. Was not me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It wasn't ever that I said, I don't want to have kids. Just never had that drive. And so then
Yeah.
when we were actually like, hey, maybe, yeah, I would be open to it. Wasn't quite so easy and straightforward. And then one day we were like surprised in a really good way that I was going to be a dad. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it kind of came about in a very organic, kind of, yeah, amazing way that
Yeah.
has now set me off into, so many new trajectories.
Yeah, it's kind of opened your eyes to something different and
Yeah.
things that you may not have realized. I do want to double click into your career because I think that it's really interesting to think about you being a parent because I will say out of all my people that I hung out with when we were younger, you definitely hit the gas pedal really hard on your career. You work for some really cool companies and roles. I
Yeah.
mean, you really went for it. Yeah, like screw the balance and you kind of went ham on it. I love it. Do you mind sharing
Well,
a little bit about your journey? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I'll say I've been reconnecting with a lot of people. I talked to a college friend of mine. He's really, really nice. He said something similar. He's like, of everyone that we knew, he's like, you are, at least on paper, like the most successful person like we know. And it's kind of weird because, I think this, I won't go into too much because I think we'll transition into it, but it's yes, maybe on paper, but when you start to think about life in a different way, you might reprioritize it. Would I change anything I did? No, 100% no. I'm super glad I've had all the experiences I've had. I'm super grateful for all of the success, but I kind of adopted some principles early on in my career. One, I wanted to try and make as much money as possible. So, like I'm young, I want to make money, and then I'll kind of like figure it out. New job
Yeah.
comes up with more money, I would take it. I also had a principle of don't ever turn down a job because of location, right?
Mm,
And I did that, right? Anytime, an interesting, when I started out, I was at Xerox. I came out to the Bay Area. I was working for BA Systems, got hired up to Seattle from Microsoft. Then I went to Walmart, went to Campbell's, and those were all in different locations. So
yeah.
being single certainly helped me be able to be mobile. All of those jobs meant more responsibility, more salary, all those things. Yeah, I'm grateful for the experiences and all the different kinds of companies, the different industries, the different environments, like from a city, like, I'm going from
Yeah.
Arkansas, right? You sandwich Arkansas around Seattle and
Yeah.
Philadelphia, right? Like
Yeah.
very different, interesting experiences. So
Totally.
I loved all of that. But I
Yeah.
also think those that it, actually the third principle I always had was don't get married too young. So I actually
Mm,
did that as well. So I gave all of this advice to my mentees and anyone younger that would ask for advice. But I adopted those, and that allowed me to have the flexibility to go and chase money and chase, responsibility and move whenever I wanted to.
it's amazing because if you think about like turning on and off dials in professional success and careers, technically you did sacrifice. You didn't balance it out. You literally like turned on and off dials by making those principled decisions. It's a really
Yeah,
interesting way to navigate your career. I freaking love it.
yeah, yeah. And look, but I also, here's the funny thing, and I think it started, the having the daughter was one aspect of it, but making some of those decisions where I was chasing money, and I took I took roles for monetary reasons primarily. If I'm really being honest with myself, I'm a good marketer, so I can
Yeah.
spin the story and tell you that I did it for all these other amazing reasons. Like, and then look, there's probably some element of truth to it, or else I wouldn't angle for that. But if I'm being honest with myself, hey, like an opportunity came
Yeah.
across and they threw a pile of cash at me, I took it.
Yeah.
But some of those experiences actually were the reason that I was like, man, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Like I'm
It has to be
traveling all
more.
the time. I'm
Yeah.
stressed more. I have more responsibility. It's just not like it started being less fun. But
Hmm.
more importantly, I gotta tell you, like I wasn't always like the best person to be around, probably professionally
Mm.
or personally, right? It was just taking a toll in a way that, I don't know. So what amount of money
Yeah.
is worth that?
So fascinating, man. I
Yeah.
love that. That's a really good summation into the next chapter. And so when did you have your kid? You said it was fairly organic, but like what was the timing of that between what job, between being an entrepreneur versus a W-2? Like
Yeah, it
walk me through the
was.
timing of that. Yeah.
Oh man, so this was interesting. I just joined a life sciences company, Medidata. They basically half the world's clinical trials run on their platform, and it was a few months before the pandemic. I was actually
Mm,
in China, I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the lockdown, and so I was in China for work and came back, and then all of a sudden all of our lives changed, and it was in that time frame after I started the job but before the pandemic that we found out that we were expecting. And so I had my daughter in the heart of the pandemic. Like there was a
wow.
question mark about whether or not I would be allowed in the delivery room. And I was like,
Mm,
this is likely to be my only child. This is like, that's
yeah.
a big deal. That's a big moment that I certainly didn't want to miss out on. So, I would have probably had to, I mean, if that, luckily I was allowed to be in the delivery room, but if I weren't, that probably would have been really difficult for me. So yeah, I look back on that time, and man, I got to tell you, it was a very difficult time for a lot of people. Like,
Oh yeah.
oh, I mean, just the emotional, like the separation, like it took a toll on a lot of people.
Oh
I
yeah.
really loved it. I mean, I really loved it in so many ways because it was this forced break. Like, we don't often take these breaks. And like right now, I feel like I'm on a different type of break, or at least a different type of trajectory. But that was a forced break that we all had to take. We disconnected more often, we reconnected in person more often. And even if it wasn't in person, like I would do more of these types of things. We'd do that whole house party thing. It was just more focused on people during that time. And my daughter, for the first, year and change of her life, just had her parents and her family around 24/7.
Mm.
And if it weren't for the pandemic, I would have been on flights, traveling around, doing, whatever, and that would have made it a very different experience for her. So I'm really grateful. It was a super unique experience. I think as parents going through that, we all probably wondered, man, what's this pandemic going to do to kids? You're not seeing everybody with masks. They're not socializing as much. For my daughter, it may not be true for everybody. Zero impact. She's the most social
Mm.
person. She's like her first day in school after all that, she just clicked right
Yeah.
in. I think kids are so resilient.
Totally. Totally. And I think that it's really fascinating that it actually helped you see different aspects outside of your principled life.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that's actually like sometimes you need that forcing function. And for me, I think becoming a dad and a parent was my forcing function,
yeah,
and I think that like it really like kind of forced things on me. But I didn't think about the pandemic being like that. I've always worked remote. And so I've always kind of had a job at home where I was home at least 50% of the time. And so it
mm,
didn't really matter to me as much, like the COVID lockdowns and stuff. It was kind of normal. But I
yeah,
will say being a parent definitely it made me, for lack of better words, like I grew up. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And going back to what you said earlier about like, hey, if I'm being really honest with myself, like this is really what it was, and I could spin it however I want. And I feel the same way after becoming a parent. Like, I just don't have the time or energy to like lie to myself anymore. Like,
yeah.
I just don't care. I'm like, I'm just gonna tell you the truth now because I'm a dad and I have way bigger problems to deal with. You know what I mean? None of that stuff matters anymore to me. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and maybe I've gone ditch to ditch, right? Because this principled approach that I took with my career, I now almost apply to my life. And
Mm,
I'm not anywhere near on the kind of end of the spectrum as like Brian Johnson, who never wants to die. But I focus on living longer a whole lot more now than I did before. I've
yeah.
always been a very healthy person. I've always worked
Oh
out,
yeah.
try to watch what I eat. But I mean, I now like it's to the next level, right? Because in my mind, everything is about how much more time can I spend with her on this planet in life. I also, this past year, you talk about this wild year for me. I lost my dad, which was a real like kind of eye opener. We had other family members that were sick, also passed. And so it all happened at this kind of perfect time to be like, all right, like is what you're doing really the best thing for you? And it all coincided right at around this time frame. We all like to talk about midlife crises.
I mean, yeah, totally. But I mean, as you think about all these things happening, and sorry for your loss, man.
No, thank you. I
That's
appreciate
really
that.
rough. Yeah. But like all these things are kind of happening, and now it sounds like it's kind of forcing you to have a new kind of principled life, or at least a new chapter on what you value. Do you have it figured out enough to share, like what your goals and kind of success looks like for you in this next chapter, both professionally and as a dad?
I don't. I wish I
Mm.
did. I think what I've been doing right now is, like I said, I've been optimizing more towards health. I'll give you an example. Before, when I was doing a lot of travel, I was on the road a lot, and I just remember I do all these like I have a Whoop, I had an Aura ring, I have my watch, I have all of the trackers out there. I've done the CGMs and everything, so I'm like constantly trying to get data on how everything is working. That's also
Mm.
how I am at work, but in my personal life, it's like data, data, data. And I was just like, I had crap sleep. I never prioritized sleep.
Mm,
And I had, heart, they have all these like measures around recovery and like energy levels. My heart rate variability was incredibly low. It just, all of these metrics were like, hey, like not great. But I had this mentality of like, well, that's what you do. You work hard, you don't sleep. That's just life. I started to take a lot of these blood tests. You can
mm.
nowadays you just sign up for all these different services,
Yeah,
and
there's so much. Yeah.
I got more data, more data, more data. I found this cool platform that allows you to kind of pull all of your blood work results together and kind of rationalize them. I looked at all of the things that were like yellow or even red, and the number one thing for every item that was questionable, sleep. Like
Mm,
sleep, 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 sleep. Yeah, you change your diet. Great, great, great. But number one scientifically proven thing was sleep. And
yeah,
so even
that's
just
really
that,
interesting.
yeah, like that simple thing of, hey, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. You hear all these things that people talk about. The approach that I was taking, I can confidently say was taking years off my life. Now I can say that
Mm,
I've realized that. And then you pair all of that with kind of new perspectives when you lose people, pair that with this new realization of like, I want to be around for my daughter.
mm.
You start to say, okay, well, what is it? Is
Yeah,
it really worth, grinding yourself down and
yeah, I love it.
shaving
I
years
mean,
off on the back
yeah.
end?
I mean, it's very morbid to talk about, but I mean, we're the same age, so I already know how old you are. So you're probably thinking about those things. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm thinking about it all the time. I'm like, man, I go to these places and I'm like at least 7 years older than the average dad out there,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So I kind of started late, and very similar age to you, right?
But
And
it
so
probably, look,
I
I
have the,
wonder for you, I wonder if you have the same thing, right? Having started later, like, you don't have the benefits of just like genetics and youth, right? It's like you
yeah.
actually have to put in the work, right, to keep up with
Hmm.
your kids. Like, do you find that to be a motivator? Do you find that challenging? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's been really hard the last 6 or 7 months because I've been working a lot. I've been kind of in a work sprint, and I'm doing the antithesis of being a good parent, and I'm actually being pretty like your lifestyle, like maybe even 10 years ago. I'm just kind of chasing the most amount of money that I can right now because in my mind, I'm mathematically breaking down the volatility in the market, and the best way that I think I could be a dad right now is to provide financial security for my family during this volatile time. And it might be a false narrative, it might be the wrong decision, and we'll find out a year from now. But the reality is the market has pinged like 2 or 3 times in the last year and a half, and it's very hard to calculate, especially as a consultant. And so right now it's up, and so I'm just hitting it as hard as I can. I told my wife, I'm like, I know it's going to suck, but I'm going to be traveling quite a bit for the next 6 months because it's going well, and I want to take as much as I can in the case that something pings again in nine
Yeah,
months. I'm
yeah.
not really sure where it's going to go. And that's kind of my mindset right now. And so it's been really rough. But then as it relates to answering your question more directly, yeah, it's exhausting. Like, I mean, I can't keep up with them. Like, yeah, it's like they're so active, and I just like tired, right? Like they want to like they're getting to the age where mine are 6 and 8, and so my
Okay, yeah.
8-year-old is very active. Yeah, and so she wants to like play and wrestle, and she wants to play soccer and do all these things. And yeah, I'm closer to 50 than I'm 40. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's tiring, man. And so I love that you are so healthy because now it's making me think about my sleep because my wife keeps telling me she's like confident I have like sleep apnea, and
Yeah.
and I've been measuring my sleep. I've been wearing my Apple Watch to sleep and measuring it, and it's horrible. Like it's literally
Right.
I sleep terribly. Yeah.
No, and look, I consume just vast amounts of information. All when I'm in the car or on my phone, only thing I'm listening to is podcasts, and a lot of it is,
Yeah.
like the Huberman Labs, the Peter Attia, like these kind of really interesting research-based conversations. And I just, man, I can't underscore sleep enough, and it's such a weird thing for me to say, even because I just for my whole life. It was almost a badge of honor. Oh, I only got like 3 hours of sleep and I'm doing XYZ. And boy, it was so misguided. It's so misguided. So no, I would
Totally.
tell you, for you
Totally.
and your family, I think get on the right sleep track. And look, also to comment on your philosophy and approach now. Look, I think I think there's no wrong answer, right? I think it's doing what you feel good about right now. And for me, it was like I see that. I also have had these interesting experiences throughout my life where I feel like I have very little control over when money comes in and money goes out. Like I've had
Mm.
these great moments where like lots of money comes in, but I've also had these horrible moments where lots of money goes out. And it's oftentimes like circumstantial. Like it's just the way that I hate to say luck, but it's a lot about luck. And so, I try to just find meaning in different, moments and try and like
Yeah,
understand.
I love it, man.
Here's the thing.
Ye-
I was at the gym of all places. And I was working out, and I happened to see this coach, and I haven't seen in a while. I drop into this one gym in Jersey, and I mainly work out in Pennsylvania. And I dropped in, I saw this coach, and we were just like catching up a little bit. I was like, yeah, let's tell him a little bit about this stuff. And he said something. I'm like at a CrossFit gym, and he drops this like knowledge. He's just like, I was kind of unhappy about something that had happened. He said, "Hey, I wonder why that's happening. Wonder,
mm,
you should figure out why that happened. Like, why was it meant to happen?" I was just like, that is such a wonderful way to look at a difficult, bad situation. Like, I wonder what
yeah,
that was meant to teach you, right? And I think that might have even been the way that he said it. And it was just like,
it's almost
yeah,
spiritual. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's that adage. I don't know the exact phrasing of it, but it's like, the more you know, the more you realize how little you know, and like you strive to be as smart and on top of it and plan and do all these things. Then you get older and wiser and you just realize so much of it is circumstance,
yeah.
and it's just about how you navigate it. And it's really interesting to talk to you at this stage of your life, man, because
I'm
you're
probably
like
so different, right?
you're usually so on point. You're like a big softie right now, focusing
I
on your sleep.
know. It's so weird. It is weird. And that's where, I think it I have to find some balance. And I think for me,
Yeah,
what needs to happen is I need to be able to like I recognize that I've always recognized the importance of being successful and like, providing all that.
yeah,
But now it's there's being there for people, physically being there has so much, if not more, value than financially and like, in other ways being there for people. And so now, with all of this knowledge, finding that right balance for me. And, look, that doesn't mean I don't still have this internal, like, strong drive to succeed and grow. Like, what I do now more than ever is I have to consciously kind of temper that and
yeah.
rationalize it. So it's like it's innate in me to want to go and like get like bigger jobs, make more money, do more things. And now it's like, okay, well, everything is a trade. Everything there's a trade-off. There's a cost to it. Sometimes the cost is worth it, and you make that investment. You do the right thing for you in that moment. But now at least I'm aware of it, and I actually think about it more holistically.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, it's really cool to see you making this transition. It's like really fun to talk to parents about this stuff for this exact reason, because I feel like so many people change. I mean, obviously, it sounds like for you is a lot of things, but like being a parent really like forces you to think about like mortality and life and who you want to be and stuff like that. And it sounds like you have a 4-year-old, so they probably are a lot more aware than they were even a couple years ago. 'Cause my 4-year-old started to like start being able to like mimic me a little bit
Oh
and
yeah,
ask questions and engage, yeah. And so now it's super tricky, man. When they're 8, they're like, it's like the worst. Like it's funny, I mean, I'll tell you
tell
something
me.
funny. I took my oldest to the arcade because my youngest was at a birthday party, so like, hey, let's go do a daddy daughter day. And then she's like, let's go to the arcade. I want to go do the zip line thing with the ropes course. And I'm like, okay. But usually we go with some other people. I got two phobias when I had kids. I don't know what happened, but I got a fear of heights and I got claustrophobia. And it's so weird. And I gotta dig into why that happened, but it's literally after Lily was born. Basically, now I'm scared of confined spaces and heights. Isn't that so weird?
I share that
Never
one
had a
with you.
problem, and then
That's a
all of a
new one
sudden,
for me as well. We should dig into that. I have to. I don't know
wait,
why.
seriously?
It just out of nowhere.
Seriously?
Seriously, claustrophobic. Like I stayed up at night like a month ago. I couldn't sleep. I had this like terror of like being buried alive. It was the worst thing ever.
Whoa.
It
I gotta start asking more.
never in my life had that issue. That's my God.
I gotta start asking more. That's all right. I gotta start asking more parents about this because maybe it's a normal thing for parents to start getting phobias. Dude, that's insane. You got claustro. You got.
Literally, never in my life, 45 years, couldn't care less. And all of a sudden had this like terror around
Oh,
it.
dude, me too. I can't even ride a roller coaster because the moment they strap me in, I'm like, wait, this doesn't unhook, and I'm like, I start panicking.
That's really interesting.
That's really interesting. Okay, so long story short, we will double click on that. But long story short, we're on this thing, the second floor thing, and I couldn't do it because I got so scared of the height. I'm on the second story, and you're supposed to walk over these like stepping stones, and you can literally like see underneath you. And I just sat there for 3 minutes, and she's like, "What are we doing? Let's go, let's go, let's go." And then finally, I'm like, "Lily, I can't do this." You know, normally like, she'll go with her sister or my wife, but like I just couldn't do it. So I went back down, and then as I was walking down, she's like, "But Dad, I thought Hans never quit." And then
Oh
I'm
boy.
literally looking at,
Oh
and
man.
I'm literally so like it's so funny because they start testing you and they start understand. Not she wasn't testing, but she was definitely like following the codex and rules that I had
She's
projected,
right.
right? And so she was right. And so I basically wasted $50 because I had to go down, take a 5 minute break, pay for another ticket to come back up, and then try again, go back down, then pay for another $50, go back up and try it again.
That's awesome.
And then she's like, "Why'd you do that?" And I'm like, "Cause Hans never
There you
quit.
go.
I'm gonna keep trying until I can keep doing it. But right now, I'm at this level right
Yeah,
here. I'm gonna get here over
that's
time.
right.
But you just need to work with me to let me get there, because I'm never gonna quit until I master it." But inside my heart, I'm like, this little brat. I'm like,
She called
can't
me
you
on
just?
it. She called me on it.
She totally called me on it. Yeah. So I will say, yeah, parenting is really interesting, man. It like really changes your perspective on stuff, and it's fascinating to hear you talk about this because I will say, like, you've really made a hard turn,
Yeah.
like a pretty drastic turn. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, I think it's what I need right now. I don't think it's necessarily good in the grand scheme of things, right? Because there is, I've been around people, I have friends that maybe are like so hyper focused on like family and kids that they sacrifice pieces of themselves and their own fulfillment. And look, we
Hmm.
do that to some extent every day as parents, and that's just
Yeah.
life. Probably just in any as parents, as kids, as spouses, whatever. And in a lot of ways, you do that. But I think there's harm in overcorrecting. And so I definitely
Yeah.
I needed the reset and the reframe and the trajectory change. But I am like very acutely aware of being too far one way or the other. Right. And you can't,
Yeah, you're it's like you're chasing balance where
yeah,
you were chasing almost like principled extremism,
yeah.
in your career, and now you're like looking for what that balance level is, and it sounds like you're still on the journey of figuring that out for
Yeah,
yourself.
look, there's so many, we hear it, we see it every day, right? Like nobody talks about their job on their deathbed. And it's like just having all of these moments, these experiences, quite frankly, in like such a close period of time, just put a fine point on, look, there is a sense of legacy you want to leave behind. And look, this may not be right and it may be more controversial. A lot of people think that their kids are their legacy. I think my child will be a part of my legacy, but I don't want my child to be my only legacy. Having a kid
Mm,
is like the actual act of having a kid is very easy. Yes, raising a
mhm.
wonderful, human being that's a productive member of society and has impact is much more difficult. So yes, that's important. There's an internal drive in me to have impact and provide value in the way that's important to me. And so yeah, just being a dad isn't going to be enough for me. Like it won't ever be enough for me. So it's making sure not to lose myself completely.
I love that, man. I love that because I think that that's like very similar to my conclusion of kind of where I think I want to be as a dad is like this kind of like balanced approach because my wife is very much so what you're talking about. She's very sacrificial to being a parent. And for me, it's like I've like come to the conclusion over the last few years, especially that you can't just tell them to be good people or tell them to be awesome. You have to like role model it. And role modeling it also means being a productive human being, living to your
Yeah.
fullest, chasing your dreams, being happy and having a good relationship with your spouse. Like all of these things, you can't just tell them to do
Yeah.
it. You have to actually be a good, you have to be a good human. And it's very, very hard. It's the worst. And I think that's kind of what you're scratching at is like this concept that like you can't just say it
Yeah.
anymore. Like you actually have to like provide a benchmark for this human being that also includes you being happy. Because when I die and she's my age or my girls are my age, I want them to like remember that, you know, they also need to work on themselves.
Yeah.
They also need to be happy. Do you know what I mean? I want them to remember that. Like it's part of being a good human.
No, that I think that's exactly right. In all of those other areas of, being a good spouse and being even a good kid, right? Like, it's hard to fully realize it. And I think that first moment when you have a kid and they do something that is exactly what you do, you're like, oh, shoot, you see it and you see that
Yeah.
reflection, you're like, man, that's like me, right? Because a lot of ways, again, being a marketer, I can like spin things, I can talk about things. I feel really good about the way that I did this thing because of this. I can rationalize things, justify things, and then when you see that, you're like, that's not good, and that's 100% me, right? Like I know that, I
Yeah.
recognize that, and that starts to make you realize, all right, like yeah, you can't just talk it. You actually have to live it, and it requires change at a point in your life where change is difficult, probably, right? More difficult than
Totally.
20 years ago. That
Totally.
that I think is you hit on, I think, probably the toughest part of it. Is it's easy. We
Yeah.
can say all the right things, but if we don't actually live it truly fully, it's hard to have anybody actually believe that it's real and it's the right thing to do.
And so, just that, I mean, I know you said you're still figuring things out and kind of marinating on all these changes that are happening in your life, but can you at least share like what your next project is? What are you doing for
Yeah.
work and what's going on
Yeah,
there?
look,
Yeah.
I consult right now, right? I work with, and I intentionally took kind of that focus on consulting. I needed the flexibility with all the family stuff going on. But I got to tell you, I don't love the process of consulting. Actually, I
Yeah.
enjoy the work. I've always enjoyed the work, the problem solving, coming up with interesting solutions, like learning about
Yeah.
new environments that people are in and problems they're trying to solve. I love that part of it. But I kind of hate the consulting business part of it, the biz dev part of it,
Yeah.
even like the invoicing, even the part of like making the money and like collecting the money, putting
Yeah.
it into the accounts. Like, man, the billing stuff is a drag. Like, I don't foresee that to be a forever thing. I
Yeah.
want to, there are different forms of kind of full-time work that I think I would enjoy, probably along with some like business ownership thing. Like you and I talked about this. You have fully adopted this. Like, hey, I'm building these businesses, and I'm going to build a bunch of businesses. I have these targets, these goals. For me, I still like kind of solving the problems that I've been solving my whole career in like different environments. I like that.
Right.
So how do I find even balance in that? I'm not going to go full entrepreneur, but I've always had that itch. Part of the reason I like the Bay Area so much, everybody's an entrepreneur. Everyone has a side hustle. Everyone's working on something. And I think that kept people really sharp and helped them kind of come up with interesting solutions to problems. And so I want to
Totally.
find that
Yep.
balance. So for me, it's going to be a mixture of both. Now, I want something that is stable. I'm very comfortable in those corporate full-time environments. But in order to feed that other side of me, maybe having a business, like what that looks like, I don't know yet. I'm exploring a few things, but probably doing both, right? And that business won't be like my
I love
consulting
it.
business. Like will truly be like a business that I get to kind of operate and have fun with and still have kind of a day job, if you
Yeah.
will.
You're definitely in some sort of evolution, man. It's really
Yeah,
fun to fun to talk to you. You're like you're wildly different than even the conversation we've had even a few years
yeah,
ago. It's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, I love
yeah.
it.
And
Yeah.
here's what else I realized, right? It's every time I made a plan, like it never ended up the way I wanted it or said it was going to, but it always ended up amazingly. And so I think, I'm having a lot of different conversations and I'm open to so many different things. I know the types of things I enjoy. I know the types of things I really don't enjoy, and that's fine too. But if history is any indication, it will likely not be anything that I just described to you, right? Like my path will likely not end up exactly as I'm painting it, because that's just not how life
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's also really good to think about it now, which is especially fun coming from you because I feel like you've been so good at like saying that's the target, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go get it. And so for me to hear you say this is really refreshing and it's nice to hear. Yeah, it makes me feel
Well,
because like you were so laser
yeah.
focused. You were like yeah, you were gunning. It was amazing to
Well, I
watch,
think
you
what
know?
you also realize that when you have your head down like that, you miss a lot of things. And I
Hmm.
remember, boy, I remember one of my earliest jobs at Xerox. I was in sales. I'd have these more senior salespeople that were like my mentors, giving me advice, and it was the cliched thing that you never in the moment would ever be like, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. It was always,
Yeah,
hey, like enjoy the journey, not just the destination, because I was so laser focused on
yeah,
being successful and then what that meant for me as the next step or the next career move, whatever. And a lot of things passed me by, right? And simply being
right.
present and accepting things, I think that's a good lesson. Like you talk about how to model good behavior. To me, it's probably one of the most important things, right? Like you can sit around and
Mm,
talk about what happened yesterday, talk about what you want to happen tomorrow, and you miss what's happening right in front of you. So having my daughter forces me to like get off my phone for a minute, like be present. We're just playing whatever she wants to talk to me. She wants to dance. She wants to do something, and like be present in that moment. Like those are the things that I think really like matter. It's not always that
mm,
thing that's coming next. But yeah, that appreciation for just kind of looking around and being open to whatever. Yeah, I
yeah.
think leads you to great places.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. And I think that if you can't learn to celebrate the journey, it's like almost like, yeah, what's the point of winning? It's kind of like it's said indifferently, like something I like to say to people is like, what's the point of winning if you don't have anyone to high five at the end? I mean, obviously it's a little bit different, but like there's some sort of elements to that, right? It's like it's always not just the end result. You
Yeah.
know, you got to think about like what kind of life you're living on the way. It's really fascinating.
Well,
Hey, Umang, let me
no, look, and
yeah,
I'll just an extra fine point on that, right? When you think about, we talked about like our mortality and all of that. You just literally have no idea. You have no assurances of what's going
totally.
to happen tomorrow. And so if this were the last moment, would you rather be doing this or that, right? Like it's a difficult thing to think about like constantly 20, but having a general
Totally.
appreciation for, hey, like we don't know what's going to happen. This is great what I'm doing right now. Like that's kind of how I feel right now and hope to feel that way in whatever environment I'm in. But it's a good thing to teach as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great barometer of success. And I completely attest to that. I mean, I struggle with like, pinging too hard on one side of that all the time. Like I'm always like, I got to balance myself because I have friends that are dying. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's unfortunate, but I mean, we're at that age, where people like pass away and it happens like, and it's interesting, right? Because it makes you like want to ping to the other side of like live life to the fullest because you might die tomorrow. But at the same time, you're like, but I still should be productive. I don't know. I'm constantly ping ponging these days. I hate getting old, man.
Yeah, it makes you lose
Maybe
sleep.
I should get on the
Then
break.
that's bad for you, right? You just can't win.
That's why I'm losing sleep, which makes me die faster. So funny. Oh, that's good. Umang, let me bring it home with some rapid fire questions I
All
like to ask
right.
every guest, and then I'll get you on your way. All right. So, one piece of advice that you have for other parents or soon to be parents.
Go with the flow, right? I've always kind
Nice.
of been that way. I think, we get so precious about parenting and like everything has to be perfect. And I do this all the time. So I'm just as guilty as anyone. Like, well, there are almost no bad decisions, right? It's just like go with
Yeah.
the flow. And I think everybody's happier, the kids and the parents when that happens.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I like that. One thing that you would tell yourself if you could before you had your kid.
It's funny. I don't know that I feel like I went in really eyes wide open, Right. Even though I wasn't
Mm.
expecting it. Because I was older, I had nieces, nephews, I had friends, I had kids. So I saw the ups and downs and the challenges. I talked about it with my
Yeah.
brother. So I don't know. I think I'm pretty happy about like how prepared I was and the mindset I went
Mm.
into it with. I actually struggle with saying, man, if I knew this, I would be so much better because all of the specifics don't matter, right? Like going back to the
Yeah.
whole kind of go with the flow, like just being there, playing, and like being present is way more valuable than any parenting book or any going into it with anything. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't have a great answer because I feel like, just understanding the philosophy behind it was more valuable than any kind of tip or trick.
It's awesome. Yeah, and I think that comes with being an older
Yeah.
parent. You know what I mean? Because I will say I kind of feel the same. Like I feel totally validated with you saying that. I'm like I kind of felt exactly the same. I'm like, yeah, like I've kind of been around enough of my nephews and
Yeah.
nieces, and yeah, I felt pretty good about it. Yeah, and how I handled it, and yeah. So, favorite book that you can recommend? Ideally business, but I'm open
Yeah,
to anything
look,
that you like.
I love this one, The Design of Everyday Things. It's actually kind
Mm.
of like a, so I used I had that book when I was in college, and it's really about like how literally the world around us is designed. So like they have examples in there of like doorknobs, right? Doorknobs are created, or door handles are created in a certain way to teach you how to interact with it, right? If it's a hook, you
Yeah,
grab it and it's
yeah,
pull. You don't usually push with this motion. And so that sort of those principles around how do you create experiences that are intuitive without having to explain it, that's kind of the underpinning for a lot of the way that I approach marketing and business is how do you understand the user, the customer, and then how do you create solutions that kind of elegantly provide value without having to be explained.
yeah. That's a
I love
great
it.
one. I got to read
Yeah.
that. I do know that there's like that whole door thing. Yeah, and I've never really knew where the story came from, but it's
Yeah.
from that book.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I got to check it out. And then when you're not consulting or being a super dad and working on your sleep and health, what do you do for fun? What does Umang do for downtime
I
activities?
love cycling. I love all sorts of biking. I started out actually when I was in the Bay Area. I was doing a ton of mountain biking. I sold out when I got older and moved over to the East Coast. I do some road biking now, but I road bike, gravel bike, mountain bike. We have a fleet of e-bikes that anytime people come out and visit us at the shore, we can go and explore. So I love cycling. I'm probably gonna do it tomorrow morning.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, man. Umang, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and catch up and actually just
Yeah, it
dig in
was
a little
fun.
bit, man. I feel like we should do this more often, man. That was really
I
fun.
loved it, man. I'm glad. I'm happy to see you back on our old stomping ground. I love it. I
Yeah,
love it. Bring us
exactly.
back full
Yeah, I've been to this
circle.
for a little bit. I know it is kind of full circle if you think about it. Yeah. But yeah, we'll talk soon. Okay. Thank you again for joining me on the
Yeah,
show,
awesome,
man.
Young. Good talking to you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.